The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
All right, we are back and we are live. Feet to the fire. I'm your host, James Alpha Yanchik, the Black Knight of talk radio. I have avoided myself stepping in the tar baby of commenting on the Holocaust. Frankly, because very little good can come of it. But what I have done in my life is have no sacred cows left unturned. And in my life, I started my trek for reality, as I'm putting it, reality being a better way of stating truth, because truth can be relative in many ways, based on perception. But reality is the kind of absolute deal, and that's our goal, is to find reality. And so I'm kind of road to truth via the path of non-contradiction, is my little saying, which a philosophy I've followed. And I'm just adding that really truth I'm talking about is reality. What is real? What is actual? What has actually happened? What is happening? And possibilities to come. So I've done my own house cleaning, I guess. Not my choice at first. As probably with most people in the world, they have been pushed into testing the limits of their connection with reality. Basically, it's an automatic thing. When you believe something is real and it isn't, when you hit a point in your life, be it through physics or through interaction with people or whatnot, where you hit the actual reality, your position will either change, crumble, or what have you. And generally, you'll hear from people who have done good work into finding out what is real. Usually has had a crash along the way. I myself not being exempt from that. I had my first dash with my perception of what was real in my family, and which, when I went through this whole thing, basically, just about broke me. But from the ashes, the phoenix arises, if you allow it. And being a believer in God, I put trust that he could put things, he could make use of the clay now that it's leaking out into a puddle. So over the years, from that point on, I looked at it as, well, I pretty much died and I'm now living again, so that what I am doing is actually going to be, what would be the word? It's a new life, I guess. From there, I've always I questioned reality. I started requesting. I was a fundamentalist Christian, General Baptist, Regular Baptist was the denomination at the time. Taught Sunday school, adult Sunday school, and I used this situation to said, actually, this kind of started prior to the actual cracking open of the shell. I started to say, like, well, if the Bible's true, then you shouldn't handle it with kid gloves. And my point was, you should be able to throw it up in the air. If the truth was the Bible will always land closed and neatly on your table, a lot of people will pick the Bible up a half inch and then let go of it, has it drop down and go, see, it's true. But if it is true, you should be able to throw the thing up in the air wildly and it will land down at this. So basically that's what I did. I really tested it, and I submitted myself to like a contradiction. This is where this all came from, well before radio. overturning a lot of the theology that I previously held. So going through breakdown in my own relational issue, divorce, long-time marriage, divorce, going through this crash through the church that I was in, I'm pretty familiar with paradigms smashing. So my goal from that point forward was to believe that if I'm open and I seek truth, reality, it will manifest itself. Ask and you shall be given. In fact, what I did coming out of that whole crash was I became pretty convinced that Jesus' words, whether they have been put together to make a nice little sermon or whether or not some have been lost, but Jesus' words in the New Testament are pretty good stuff. So that's kind of what I based my life on. And as I use those quotes in world, it does work. So that's where I was. Getting into the talk show world, I started doing a talk show as if it was a nighttime talk show, talking about weird stuff, Art Bellish. In fact, I started doing it after Art Bell went off the air that first time. And it evolved into this search for truth. Rather going from a kind of a cool, a curious entertainment to like really digging into the world. And so in my life, I've saw reality has encroached itself to in family, in religion, in my religion and so forth. So when I go out into the world and I look for reality, I shouldn't say I go out looking. It kind of comes. I just let the world come at me and deal with it as it comes. I try to do anyway. That's what I think the right way to do it. So as stuff comes to me, I deal with it. We've had some notable crackers of the reality code, the breaking open to show the light. Some of those people, such as Douglas Dietrich and, gosh, I'm not going to think of his name now. I just had his name in my head. Ralph Epperson and books I've read, Bart Ehrman and so on. These people have brought out very good points that have roots in reality. Now, I can't just blanketly accept it all, and I don't think anybody should or would. But along the way, you can feel these tentacles kind of reaching out from reality into where you're at to kind of give you a glimpse of what is real. And kind of what I'm bringing up to is I have come up with a general assumption that I go under. So when somebody holds to something that is an answer, a particular religion or sect, philosophy, science, all these things, when they present them, my assumption going in is to look for the things that are true and thus real, and to notice the things that are questionable and thus possibly not real or definitely not real. And so I can take the wheat from the chaff. I can take the baby and throw out the bathwater. And what a lot of groups do, because they fall into an ego attachment to their position, what they do is they will use manipulation to try and get you to believe their point in the whole. I mean, I've had this for many years. I mean, people listening, I'm sure this is not a big revelation. So I think the first big step in my life was to realize that nobody has it all right and no one has it all wrong. I mean, they may have a millimeter right and a mile wrong, and somebody can have a mile right and a millimeter wrong. And, of course, somewhere in between is for most people. And my goal is to go out like my little Easter basket, go out looking for nuggets of truth and put them together in the basket every so often to throw them out, kind of move them around, and pictures form. I am now closer to understanding reality, and some of the nuggets could be rearranged. Maybe some of them were close, but when I put them all together, and so they kind of get tossed out, other ones come in. And so this is when I have a relaxed view of finding reality. We're all going to die, so I'm not worried about dying. We're all here to learn. So I'm not upset about making a mistake. because we all do. We all make mistakes. We all learn. It's whether we learn from the mistakes and in the compassion of the mistake, look to help those who have been harmed, if possible, by the mistake, and those people who have been harmed, they themselves looking for truth and reality and making their own mistakes, would be gracious in this reconciliation that could happen. Of course, this is all Jesus' teachings. I'm just not quoting the words written down. And so this is why, if you look at my webpage, Socrates and Jesus are my two, we'll call them icons, for how I look into the world. Socrates, unfortunately, not enough written about him, by him, nothing written by him. And basically Plato being the source of Socrates, and along the way he became a sock puppet rather than quoting from him, and it's up to people to kind of figure that delineation. Early Plato, Socrates is probably more accurate. But I have on the webpage that I have, and let me go, where is webpage? Webpage, there it is. I updated the, you'll see the quotes I have in there. This is without doubt the most reprehensive folly, the folly of thinking we know what we do not know. It's from Socrates. And the unexamined life is not worth living. I also have up there a quote from Jesus addressing the self-appointed experts. They are blind guides of the blind. If a blind man guides a blind man, they both will fall into the pit. And so this is what I do in my life, which this show is an extension of. This is not a show, per se. It is basically, it's just an extension of how I look into things. It enables me to be able to have guests on and look into stuff and share it with others. People send in questions, they call with questions, they join the group discussion, and this is how the group goes. It's not a show. I'm not making money on this. I, of course, losing money on it, but I'm gaining wisdom and knowledge, experience, making acquaintances, getting bruises, learning from those bruises, healing, etc. And I openly share this with the listener. No contrivance here. I don't have an agenda. I'm not trying to get you to vote for someone or not vote for him or get you to join this club or that club. I am on a search for reality, truth, and I use the lack of contradiction as my basic thumbnail guide, my compass, if you will. And so this is how I do things. I don't have any sacred cows. There's nothing off limits other than disrespect. I would like to say if someone wants to check in anything, as long as if they're actually wanting to check into something and learn versus being a propagandist versus being someone whose goal is to, like the perfect example is the right and left wings in politics. They're trying to get you to not believe them, but believe them and join their team. Put your energy in with their energy so then they have a big collective power. It's all about getting you to give up your personal power, your creative power, your physical power, mental power, and turn it over to someone else. When you go to work, what you're doing is I'm going to give you part of my time, my creativity, and my physical and mental effort. You will compensate me, which I can turn around and pay someone else for their time and information, and we all exchange it. I mean, that's the goal of this. When someone's into power, their goal is to get your power, get whatever you can. Now, their goal might be to turn that into money and become billionaires. Their goal might be to turn it into subservience and become slave masters. Others can turn it into a toy, kicks to get you to do things. I remember early on in my internet experience going on to boards such as Surfing the Apocalypse, and there was 3 of them. Rumor Mill News, and there was a third one, Godlike Productions or something like that. I forgot. These may be gone, they may be still in existence, but it seemed to me that their whole goal was you had factions, and they could come up with stuff, be it true or not true, and try to sway people into the court. It was almost like a game with your mind. So, I mean, there's various reasons for people to do things. they have an insecurity about themselves. So if they get more people to feel like they do about certain things, they feel better about it, or they feel empowered, whatever the reason. And so what I try to do here, and what I've done in my show here, is I'm completely running the whole thing. Thank God for having the finances to do so. But then I don't owe anybody. I don't have to go, okay, we'll back your show, but then you have to say this and don't say that. I don't have any of that. I have my own conscience. I have my own desire to find truth and reality. And I have no sacred cows. What I don't want is just people to either propagandize in the proper sense of, I'm telling you things that are slighted. I'm not going to bring up proofs. I'm not going to show you this, that, and the other thing. I'm going to use inflammatory language. I'm going to use key code words, programming words. Those people aren't genuine in what they're doing. And so I don't, the goal would be to have someone on who I may either don't agree with, or I'm neutral and I start to not agree with them. I'm going to bring up some of my things. Not that I'm going to bring up questions. I'm going to say, this doesn't make sense. What about this? What about that? Oh, I see over there. I don't see over there. It's all done in the spirit of goodwill, even though the topics might be nasty. And as I said in the beginning, I've seemed to avoid the tar baby of Holocaust and, quote, it's the Jews, it's all the Jews, whatever. I seem to have avoided that all the years. And as of last week, Les Visible was saying things, Janet Phelan was listening to things, and there started to be this friction. It turns out that Les was hearing what she said, and she heard what Les said, and so now there were some things. So what I happened to have been doing at the time is I happened to have been going through some of the work by David Irving, and I was kind of fascinated by some of the things he said. One of which, on one hand, he puts the evidence that shows Auschwitz is not what they said it was, and at the same hand, saying that, yes, there was some number in many millions of Jews killed by the Germans, which is kind of funny because people who deny the Holocaust say that very little Jews were killed, and people that agree with the Holocaust say a lot were. He's doing a lot were, and there's been some misleading recreation propaganda done by this. So that was kind of fascinating because I myself kind of fall into a category where you can't put me like in your classic stereotype because, I'm not in a stereotype. I'm trying to find truth, honestly. Make mistakes, I learn, I grow, I turn, and so on. So this kind of happened. So at some point in the future, we're going to have Les Visible on to talk about his position and why and evidential. He does have some comments in his commentary today. I did put a link under his name to a post that he did on his blogs that provide some of the evidence for his position, but we'll get into that later when he is on a show when I can ask him real-time stuff as it comes up. The interesting thing is that because I have no sacred cows and because I have found most people, I found nobody to be totally correct, most people have some kind of bias and agenda. I mean, it's let's say it's natural for people to assume what they are in and doing is the best or what have you. There are people who are the opposite of that. But so it doesn't surprise me that when I look into the historical, I should say, when I look into the presentation of history of World War II, it doesn't surprise me that I'm finding things that I think don't jive with the actual reality. It's not a surprise to me. It's not a slam on anyone in particular. Everyone has done it everywhere I've gone in my entire life, either out of ignorance or willful I can't see the word now. I got a total block on it. Indignance. You know what I mean. So it's indignant willfulness. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. So, it doesn't bother me. What used to bother me would be I used to go out and try. This goes back to my family and stuff. I would take it upon myself intellectually and emotionally to be able to present the evidence And not in a manipulative sense, but speak in the proper language, using the proper examples for someone to get it. And I remember talking to my psychologist I was going to when I was going through the divorce and all this stuff in my life, and he said that I get you. I think you feel, Jim, that if you present it just right, people will get what you're saying. I go, yeah. He goes, that's one of the most dumb and arrogant things I've ever heard. Boy, was I pissed. I was like, what? I thought it was quite laudable of myself that I would go to that extreme to try and go through the stuff, and then I got his point. It was arrogant to think that I could do it. It was very freeing. Now, it took a while for it to sink in, but I get it now. I don't take it upon myself to be able to go in and find truth, be the banner of truth, and bring it to the world, and be able to be such a great orator, and so I can present it in a way, and everybody will go, oh, I get it. And boy, is that liberating. So I can have people on the show and totally disagree with them, and there'll be something in their present, something that can bring to the table. It's going to be good. You know, there's something that all these people done in history who are evil or good that is good, that we'll call it good, and then there's the evil. It's humanity. So it's like a Democrat will say the Republicans are the problem, and it's ridiculous. But the Democrats aren't all the problem either. That's ridiculous. It is the way that we have created a perceived reality and are forcing the evidence to fit it. You are making up things as you go along with it's like the end justifies the mean. Yeah, I know we're padding it here, but it's really true, so it's okay. Because it's true. And when I look into the atrocities in World War II on all sides, it is terrible. And the American side will think that they're the greatest and this and that, and a lot of the classified data that's come out shows atrocities. And it turns out, on the Russian side, who was our ally, that when Russia and Germany were aligned, the Allies, British Americans, declared war on Germany, not Russia, later becoming ally with Russia to crush Germany. And Stalin was probably the worst of all of them. Stuff coming out now, especially with what would they call it? Am I saying perestroika? Is that proper? I mean, it might be another, where all that stuff was opened up. All the KGB files were opened up and all that, the collapse of the Soviet Union, all the stuff comes out, horrible stuff. He was our man. He was our buddy. Patton, seeing this stuff like, wait a minute, this guy is no good. We got to go in there now. He gets, chastised for him. Again, I'm not saying Patton's a good guy. He's got his problems, It's just that what you have to do is you have to watch what's going on and glean the reality, the good stuff from it, the lessons from it, the pieces of truth. You have to glean that from it and let the other stuff go, because nobody has it all. If you think that you got all the answers, if your religion or sect is the proper one, your view of history, your party, your whatever, your government philosophy, if you think that yours is the correct and right one, you are deluded. You are completely deluded. Because one of the things that's true about everything on this planet is everything has got a problem. It's the old biblical term. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's put it in plain terms. Everyone has some piece of the puzzle and others don't. The reality, the actual reality of what happened, what is happening, and what will happen. And why do things happen? What's the physical? What's the political? What's the spiritual reasons? All these things, no one has it all. And so, and if one's going to take some kind of an arrogant ego approach of having a lot more than someone else, that's even more silly. Because what you're saying is that, yeah, I have less wrong than you, so I'm better than you. It's ridiculous. And so what I have done in my personal life, which when you hear the show, probably the only thing that's different from me, let me hold this for a minute here. I got some time. We'll have less visible in a minute here. what the difference between me in real life and here is I talk a little slower here, if you can imagine that. And I'm being more like sober and serious because of the responsibility I have as someone talking out in the media, being honest and open. I have to be willing to admit mistakes and learn from, grow from it. But pretty much what you see is what you get. I don't have an agenda. People say to me, it's like, who's really the fault for everything wrong in the world? Well, we are. Because either we are being manipulated or allowing manipulated or doing manipulation, and we're not committed to reality. We're not committed to truth. We're committed, we want to have our way right more than anything. And some people are more aggressive in that. They're more attached to that, and other people aren't. Then you have people who are the opposite, where they have such a low opinion of themselves that they'll gravitate to someone else who's got a good spiel. And when something comes up in your life, and it always does, and it always will, that will challenge a position you have, that is a gift from God. That is a divine aha moment where you go, wait a minute, this doesn't make... Right there, you got the choice. The choice is, do I pursue this to learn from it, test it, be open about it, listen, or do I attack it and come up with something to make my way the right way? And that defines, I think, that's the defining principle in whether a person we'll call them good and evil. Because even if they don't intend evil, by living in an illusion or delusion, you're out of touch with reality. When you get that, when you lose that connection, you can drift away. And then when your cognitive dissonance comes, when you're slapped back to reality again, it's very devastating to you or those around you. And so I think because of guests and so far, we've kind of broached this whole thing about World War II. Holocaust. We talked about stuff with Douglas Dietrich. It didn't seem to be as hot because a lot of his stuff, when we talked about it, and his videos are still up. They, it got tens of thousands of views, whatever. That stuff was kind of esoteric. So it didn't hit home close, per se. But when you talk about, what I've been doing is, so I've been, because I've downloaded the books that Irving offers. I haven't got a chance to read them. I don't have time to read them. I'm not a good reader. So I'm thinking of ways I can have him read to me, audio-wise, to try and get the information that he's been doing for years. But, he's a Holocaust denier. Boom. Don't listen to him. See, that's the problem. I could tell you this. I bet you I will agree with Irving and I'll disagree with him. Because that's everybody. But I'll learn stuff from him that people won't look at because it's a sacred cow. And I'll see where he made mistakes or assumptions where he didn't do. And I'm not the arbitrator of this, but I'm the one that's got to go through this world and receive the pleasure, pain, suffering, reward, and the growth. So when I die and move on to the next level of existence, if I approach it with an openness and an honesty to find reality and not have prejudices that will sway me, I'll have a better chance of finding reality and the truth, and I could get through that cognitive dissonance when you are thrust into reality, and whether it be a physical, metaphysical, or mental clash as you line up, I'll be able to get through it better because my goal is truth and reality. I don't care. I know because human beings are based in there's a power struggle. And you could bring in spirituality and the devil. You can bring in evolution and say it's an animal trait. You can bring in aliens, interbreeding, whatever package you want to wrap the story in, the principles are true. We're in a point when we're trying to go from a material being and bring the qualities that are found in a material reality into a spiritual one. And there has to be some type of alignment so that you can pass into that growth. And this is where we're at right now. So when things come into existence that we don't want to be true, the natural tendency is to gravitate toward the evidence that allows you to continue your belief. I believe that they've come up with a biological mechanism that rewards you with dopamines or something in your brain because change is hard. It is probably based on if someone came up to you and said, yeah, you can fly, just jump off a roof. Oh, okay, you jumped off the roof, you die. So there's probably some type of safety mechanism in holding on to what you're at. And we all know people that are moved very easily and have up getting in trouble and doing dumb things because they don't have that, what would be the word, that basis holding them back, that train that's behind them of experience and learning, keeping them on the track. But because that thing that keeps you on the track also holds you back. So there's a balance. And everybody has their way to go through it. And this is where let go and let God, all these phrases come out. This is what it comes down to. So having not looked a lot into aspects of the Holocaust, I can go in pretty sure that there are going to be things that are true and not true, meaning real and not real, that people have used it for political gain, just like the people who used in World War II, whether it be the Russians or the Germans, the British, the Americans, they used things for their gain. You have the propaganda of what the Poles were doing to the Germans to help the Germans people go along with going into Poland. Some percentage of that is true. There's going to be some amount of it true. And you have the same kind of things being done to the Allies about how the Germans are. Again, some percentage of that is true. You have the Russians and what they've done after the fact. There's actual, documents coming from Russia showing what it's done. And so rather than be aligned with an ideology, rather than aligned with reality, this is what I personally do in my life. And this is what the show is an extension of. So all I ask from guests and people who interact here is that your goal is honestly finding out what is reality, what is true, what is real. You may have opinion on what it is, and so you're going to come from that perspective. But when addressing it in the realm of doing things, you should be able to openly discuss and not get, if you get emotional, first off, if somebody takes a poke at you, that's wrong. That's using manipulation and aggression to strike out. If somebody is offended by a question that's asked in honesty without, poking, that's wrong. Because in reality, what you're doing is using a technique to defend yourself from changing a position you're in. And it really helped me in my life when I realized that in any given point in my life, whatever particular denomination and religious belief and so forth I was at, or relational status and things and so on, I realized that at any given point, including this moment, there are real, there are good, and there are positive things that I bring to the table. And there is negative, there is false, and there are harmful things I bring to the table. And it's, as you mature, and your goal should be to remove the harm and seek the good highest thing. That does not mean make lies to make people feel better. It does not mean to make lies to make people feel bad so that you're better. And this is the problem with what's going on right now in the world. I think we're maybe at a turning point in the apocalypse, the revealing of truth. That's what apocalypse means. That's why it's Revelation. St. John is the apocalypse of St. John. It is the revealing. Now, I'm not getting into the book at this point. I'm talking about the word. We're going to be in a position here of truth is coming out. I even been looking into the possibilities of multiple universes collapsing into, blending, let's say, with others. And that's another show I'm going to get into about the Mandela effect. There are things going on now that it makes it extremely imperative to be calm, open-minded, be relaxed. Don't be emotionally attached to where you're at. Be intellectually, but don't be emotionally attached to your intellectual position. There's many intellectuals out there feel that their poop doesn't stink, and it does. And it's you can know 99% of everything, and the 1% of the person that they know that you don't makes them valuable for your completion, your wholeness, and of course you're valuable for theirs. And this is what I think I'd want to get out there and make sure it's known as I go forward in these times. And we do these shows, and we talk about hot topics. We talk tar baby topics where they have words that are prepackaged to use to label people so that my position is here. And if you disagree with this position, you're this label, and we teach people that label is bad. So when they come to see that label, they go, he's one of them, and walks away. And whatever that person could add, even if it's a negative example, like this person is going to teach you a bad thing to do, to be at, you can learn from it. Actually, I don't want to get into name calling, but there's been people in my past, in my family, who have been great negative teachers. This is what you don't want to do. They've been examples of it. And this is the thing. You're going to be used by God as an example, good or bad. Actually, both. Throughout your life, you're going to be both. And so if you realize this up front, guess what? I got things right, I got things wrong. I might even realize which is which I have right and wrong. But I have a valid seat at the table of humanity. I have a talent, I have something to give, and I have something to receive. And let's all get down to it and start looking at the cards, our cards, and let's start trading them. There's no winners, there's no losers. We're all winners. Okay? So I think it's funny if you have look at this complex system. If you're looking at the, let me get the far cam here. Here's this complex system. I'm doing this stuff. Most of this stuff is being used for the broadcast. This is more audio stuff. But one of these deals to go out, the whole thing doesn't work. And this board may say, I'm the most important part. This processor, I'm the most important part. Computer behind me over here is the broadcast computer that you're listening to. All of that could say, but they're not the most important. Without any of those working, it doesn't work. And that's what I think humanity is. We're all important parts of it. Presidents and paupers, kings and paupers, it doesn't matter. We are all part of the tapestry of life, and our ego tells us that we're either more important or less important. And this is what we have to get over. And I'm telling you right now, what's going on with this whole deal with cops being shot, people being shot, there's agitators out in the ranks. You have the stuff going on with Hillary. Isn't it funny, as a slight aside, how all this stuff started happening when this whole thing came out with Hillary? And I think that's true about the government. It's not even personal to her. It's when an agenda is not done, that powerful group brings up things to try and either mask or deflect or change things. Even though I don't like the later Matrix movies, one thing in the last Matrix movie I think is a message to us from the powers that be, with the programmer. The programmer already has something planned for whatever move you do. This is what's given in there. And I don't think they're that good, but they do have this. And they want to herd you into particular actions. So when you do that action, then they can actually, we herd them to this action, here's what we have planned. And we can herd into right now with the people getting shot, either whatever color, whatever position, all those people getting shot, that's part of maneuvering. Maneuver us away from what's going on with Hillary. And again, I'm not saying Trump's a great guy. So don't take this as partisan. Ron Paul was the greatest in my lifetime, would probably be the best example of a president we could have elected. The most honest, the most based in constitutional law and so forth. And they had to do a lot of digging to come up with some convoluted thing that said he was racist. Where somebody used his name in their magazine, which had some things that were not good. As soon as he found out, he pulled it out. See, that's Ron Paul. Because he didn't have what the people in power wanted. They didn't want what he said. So anyway, I'm looking at it now, and it's like, just think that you're being played. If you're black, you're being played. If you're white, you're being played. If you're a police officer, you're being played. This is a despicable game that's being done to get you from not noticing. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, as it's said in Wizard of Oz, as that little dog pulls the curtain back. Well, the revelation that is coming, I'm guessing it is basing on things hurrying up. It's going to be pulling that curtain away, and people are going to be seeing part of their philosophy in that there conniving, and part of someone else's philosophy is going to be in there. And it's up to us to go, wait a minute, are we on the side of humanity? Are we on the side of doing the highest, best good for all involved? Are we on the other side, which is manipulating humanity to get them to do stuff for me? This is the big divide that's coming. And I think that another phrase that comes out is what is said in the darkness will be said in the light. What is said in the secret spots will be shouted on the mountaintops. That is the revelation. That is what's happening. You're going to find people posting on Facebook, your friends, and they're going to be going, them black people, or more explicitly, N-wise. Or you're going to go, yeah, those whites and, whatever, and those cops. You're going to see people kind of snap now. And you're going to be going like, whoa, this guy or gal, I didn't know, they're pretty. And because this is the cracking open of the shell that's coming out now, where people will reveal their true colors. And now if you're seeing a negative thing pop out on you, you're going like, wow, listen to me. That's another gift from God saying, look, here's a little thing you gotta let go. You gotta open it up and let it go. And then if you're seeking truth and love and wisdom and growth, you're going to see that part in you and you're going to let it go. It's the old confess your sins to one another. Putting it in a more modern sense, you can see this stuff and you let it go. Or if you have a close friend or family member can see something in you and let you know, when you hear that and you feel that anger coming, what that is the protection circuitry to keep this negative ego thing in charge, to keep it intact. And you got to let it go. Some of it doesn't matter to me. People want to preserve a race, be it black or white. It doesn't matter to me. Race doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter. So whatever color you are, it's your actions. It's how you treat fellow humans. It's how you work and go into the world. Do you think that you're the center of everything? Do you think everybody owes you? Do you think you exist for your own personal enjoyment and not part of a team? I mean, that's the defining things. And I think now with all this stuff, we're being pushed into some type of a race class war to keep us from seeing who the real scum is. And people will put out phrases, they'll blame certain groups, and they will protect certain groups, and both are wrong. Their psychopaths are the enemy. There's psychopaths in every conceivable group, and they all have one thing in common. They want power, and they want to have power over you, the populace. So it does not matter. You might have a higher per capita version of psychopaths in certain cultures. You might have more amongst, higher percentage of the rich might be compared to the poor, or vice versa. I don't even know. But don't get hung up by that. Don't get hung up by it's them people. It's all people. All people are the problem, and all people are the solution. And the ones who are the worst are those psychopaths who are manipulating us to do their bidding. It's the one who wants to take your time, effort, and money, bring you in debt, slavery, to manipulate you into giving your life, your creativity, your physical, mental, emotional creativity to their projects so they can sit back and reap huge rewards and huge power to have whatever they want in the privacy that they've built, the wall they've built around them. Those are the true enemies. And in the past, the serfs have thrown out the king. But it's not as obvious now because the psychopaths have enlisted me and you in their ranks. So in reading Socrates, this is without doubt the most reprehensible folly. The folly of thinking we know which we don't know. To think that we are right and everybody else is wrong without actually examining it. The unexamined life is not worth living. And the blind guides of the blind will simply lead people into the pit. That's why I put it up there. I say these are my two icons, or whatever the term is, whatever. And so, and of course, people don't want it is. So they say, well, Socrates didn't write anything. Who knows if he said it? It's a sock puppet for Plato. Jesus, well, there's so many things wrong with we found difference in manuscripts, and I don't know. He didn't, there really wasn't a Sermon on the Mount. These were put together by people. Well, maybe that was true. Maybe the Sermon on the Mount is been put together by people who have various quotes together, and they just created a fictional scenario with real teachings. So I got a whole thing on what I think has happened with Jesus after his death, and with all the churches and all that. And I could probably do a show on that to explain where my personal opinion is on it and why. But I got to look at this. I'm already going to run late with Les's thing, so I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to then start Les, and we'll have Jim. We'll have Jim in at the top. So thanks for listening. And hopefully what I have said has helped, given, so it's a nugget people might help them. That's my goal on that. So